Finally, I made it on time. How is everyone? Hope you guys had a great holiday yesterday. Hey Eric, how you doing? Hey Cosmic. Awesome. I'm glad you're here just to hang out and listen, Cosmic, and thank you for monitoring from the background. I appreciate you so much. I haven't been doing the Patreon thing, Eric, and it's because I can't get into the account right now. Phone mess ups. I have to replace this phone as it is. It's almost out of memory and I can't get it to clear. So I might be temporarily offline. I hope not. Anyhow, so don't bother with the with that particular thing right now. Patreon, I can't do much with it, and it wasn't able to do the things I wanted it to do. I'm gonna have to find other avenues for some of this. I don't have a computer to work with. And unfortunately, Patreon requires you to have a computer because I can't do some of the tactics or adjustments that I need to do on my phone, even with it set to like desktop view. I still can't access some of the buttons I need to operate that website and put stuff up. And I also have to keep my phone open the entire time I'm trying to upload to that site, which I can't always do. So I gotta find a better thing, unfortunately. But that's not what today's live is about. Today's live is about, well, I'm going to give you three different cryptids. So let's start with the pictures. Let me flip this around. So we'll be covering the ALC, the Shunka Warak'in, and we will also be, oh my god, if I can even pronounce this, the Pueblo Thunderbird, and the territories that they all share, which is like most of the United States at one point in time, part of Canada and South America. So let me turn this back around real quick. No, good. I'm glad you made it, Jen Valentine. Glad you're here. If you do have questions, please put them in capitals or put like a red question mark next to them so I can delineate them from regular talk. So all of these creatures, and they're with the Shunka Warak'in, the dog, there are actually 2 or 3 more variations of them. I'm still trying to find the old names for them before I go into more detail, but I will kind of discuss a little bit about them when I'm talking about the Shunka Warak'in. So let's get started with the big guy that, I just posted a picture of him, and I might actually have a picture of a Shunka Warak'in that was with the Átah Saia that I took a picture of this last summer. So these guys are incredibly ancient. They come probably from the Pangea era, or maybe even a little before, depending on which native lore you talk about. No, this wasn't an attempt to do a foreshortened. I just was a dummy and I should have moved over a little further. So both my native grandmother and my mother had a chance to see one of these guys out in the open during the day under different circumstances. So let's get into my grandmother's sighting first. So this was in the Wasno Valley in about 1901 when she saw it. She was about 4 years old. She was born in 1897. So yeah, about 1901 is when she saw this thing. And it came with she said, a satchel or a bag over its shoulder, and it was carrying an obsidian tomahawk of some sort with it. And it was about 10 foot tall, according to her. And it came to visit the Yaren people that her family lived near. It was bringing them trade goods. And it actually had one of these guys with it, a Shunka Warak'in, like a pet. It was its dog. Now, these things are still seen today throughout like Wyoming, Montana, and Colorado, Nevada. I have a friend who has a ranch in Montana, and he has frequent issues with these big Workin taking down his cattle. And he has more than once described something very similar to this guy being in the company of the ancient, probably archaic hyena, because these things are about half again the size of a normal big timber wolf. So they 200, 250 pounds, maybe 300 pounds at the top. Although there are a couple that are said to range around the 400-pound level, which is the one I think I got a picture of, a brown one here, and I'll put it up after this show. And it was in the company of the Átah Saia that I took the picture of. So these guys have kind of horsetail-like wiry hair on their heads. It's always a mess, according to everything people have said. My mother's sighting was during her time on her turnout, and that was in Painted Hills, California area. Back in, about 1928 is when she saw hers. It didn't have a satchel. It had a spear, not a hand axe. But it also came with trade goods and visited the Ishka that she was doing her turnout with. So these guys are kind of a bizarre mix. They are kind of bat-like, kind of primate-like, and kind of ancient reptile-like. They're believed to be warm-blooded. Now, in history and geologic record, we do, or in anthropological bone record, fossil record, we do have a couple of bizarre historic creatures that we found. We found, what is it, the musk deer? Little fanged musk deer, ancient little deer. We still have a variant of it today, but it's a complete mammal today. Originally, it had ancestors that were reptilian, but warm-blooded. So this guy might fall into that category. So they are reported to have leathery brown skin and lots of folds, wrinkles, like they've got extra skin. That'll include their face, etc. They have tusks along with teeth. So they have very bat-like teeth. They do have boar-like tusks, another oddity. They always cover their member, male or female. They will wear clothes. Like females are said to wear a top that sometimes hangs over one shoulder. And they're just as ripped, from what I understand, as the males. They have lots of muscles on them, both males and females. And the females are supposed to be slightly smaller. So I guess they have live birth. There are also some tribes, like you get up into the Huron and you get into the Algonquin and Iroquois and up around the Pine Barrens, and some of the tribes up there, and even some Seminole reported seeing something like these guys. They had wings. I'll get into that too, but I'm going to have to do that separate from this because there's a lot of information. So they have yellow amber eyes typically, and their eye shine can be amber or red from what I understand. The scaling on them, according to my mother and my grandmother, which all I have gotten to see of one of these things so far is about that much. And the hands. You know, I was able to get a picture of the hands and the head. I have not seen the full form yet. So I haven't been able to confirm that they actually have the scaling on their legs and their arms. But I'm going to take my mother and my grandmother's word for it and the Loric accounts. So the scaling is supposedly black with white tips that look like hearts. Additionally, they have a iridescent blue-black sheen to them, according to lore, which to me makes them part of, the reticulated family for sure, because that iridescence is very reptilian in some species like snakes. So they have peculiar hands too. Um, they're said to have a more lizard-like but almost primordial hand. They can't, according to my mother and my grandmother's accounts, they can't close their hand like this. They can only close their hand about like so. But they've got one heck of a grip. Like if they get a hold of you, you forget getting away. They can't. They're really strong. They're supposedly stronger than most Bigfoot. They have giant strength, and they do. Some of these guys get up to the 12-foot range, so they're pretty big. Additionally, they are underground dwellers. They live in cave systems. They live in lava vent tubes, which in the area that my mom took me to, which is where I got the one picture I have, and it took me 40 years to get that picture. And no, I don't go into that area very often, maybe once every 10 years. I'm going to try to push my luck probably next summer, because I went in this last summer. See if I can get some better pictures after I've worked with my equipment this year, because I don't like spending a lot of time. I get really uneasy around these guys. You feel like food, you feel like prey when you're around these guys, and I don't trust them. And I don't care what the original lore said. Alright, so now that you got some idea of the general description, and they do have claws, but they've got triangular claws and kind of shelled. My mom saw the hand of one really close, and she said it looked like it was wearing armored gloves. So I'm assuming there's some sort of hard shell or structure to their hands uh, that's different than a regular hand. Probably more lizard-like. Might even still have like protective scaling, and the claws are not modern-looking. My mother claimed that they look more like finger caps than claws. She said that whatever the hands are, they're very unusual and archaic. Now, some native lore calls these men the Obsidian men or stone men. Or some lore even goes back to like calling them lava men, which puts them back maybe a billion years. But a lot of native lore, indigenous lore, and even some of the lore from other parts of the world, because these guys are elsewhere from what I understand, all talk about them being the first creatures to make stone tools. And in particular, when obsidian flows started occurring, and we didn't really have a lot of obsidian glass on this planet until about, I don't know, about 406 billion years ago. I think is the oldest deposit of obsidian that we have. So that would have been the earliest time they could have learned to have napped obsidian. However, there are loric accounts that they were considered a species that helped us learn how to live in the wild, and they were one of our teachers. Now, modern native lore kind of assigns them to the level of ancient deity or spiritual creature at this point, not realizing they're still alive. So there's that complication. So that might or might not be true. I do know that the tools I've seen in their area are very archaic. They look very much like the stuff from about 50 million years ago that Neanderthals made and that pre-Clovis people made, etc. If nothing else, they have a tool type that is similar. All right, so Shunka Warak'in. Some of them are reported to have spots. Some of them don't. Some of them have more striping. There is one mummified in, I think, Wyoming in a museum somewhere. And they do have a very dish-like face in the front and a very long, accentuated jaw with very archaic-looking fused teeth. Because their side teeth in the back are not like modern dogs. And their canines are much larger, and even in the mummified one, which I think was shot in like 1914 or 1918, something like that, when it was attacking farm animals. And they still attack farm animals today all through the upper Midwest. They do have a big bottle brush kind of tail on them, like a fox, according to my grandmother and my mother, because they've both seen these things out in the wild. They also have slightly longer legs and a humped back like a hyena, and they do have a slope to their back, according to the descriptions. The one that my grandmother got to see, she said it had tiger striping at the backs of the legs, like a very archaic horse has, and it was male. She described the one that she saw as having spots like a hyena, and that it had very thick, bristly hair all around the back of its head, down over its shoulders, and down across upper part of its rib cage, and it had kind of a spine of them, a trail of them that followed spine. And its hair was a little longer than normal, like a winter coat, though it was summer, excuse me. And I haven't seen one of these guys myself. Oh, the other is that they also supposedly have like black coloration on the tops of their paws. These guys can come in various colors, and they may not all be strictly hyena-like. And they do have a hyena laugh. A spotted hyena laugh is what my grandmother finally understood. That, and when she was able to hear documentaries of the spotted hyena and it laughing, she's like, "Oh, that's what the Shunka Warak'in sounds like when it's making unusual calls. When it's relaxing, it will laugh like that." Because she saw the one that came uh, to the Yarens area uh, relax, because this individual stayed for a couple of hours while I was talking to the Yaren, and they fed this thing and it relaxed with the family group, and the kids could approach it, so it was domesticated. Now, here's the interesting thing. For those of you who are not familiar with um, the La Brea tar pits and some of the finds at the La Brea tar pits, there are over 2,000 skeletons of dire wolves from the La Brea tar pits that have been found. There are over 3,400 skeletons of, Smilodon. Out of both of those species, 30% of the dire wolves show signs of domestication. 34% of the Smilodons, saber-toothed tigers, show signs of domestication. That was something my uncle and my grandmother both had a lot of interest in, because we have lore about using dire wolves to hunt the stiff-legged bear. Now, stiff-legged bear isn't really a bear. A stiff-legged bear is a woolly mammoth. So at one point in time, there was lore about Native Americans using at least dire wolves to chase down mammoths. It's in our culture memory. And there's more than one tribe that speaks about that sort of thing. All right. And on to the last one. So in the 20s, when my native grandmother was in the Pueblo, Hopi, and Navajo regions studying with medicine people, one of the Hopi medicine people that she studied under took her to a nest site in the Grand Canyon region to show her the nests of ancient birds. The thunderbird of that area looks actually like a huge parrot. It is blue-black in color, very much like the coloration of this guy over here. It also shares the same heart-shaped white tips to some of its feathers, but it has a very flicker-like set of feathers on it, and this thing is huge. Now, historically, was sighted, these creatures were sighted in the same location that my grandmother went to in the 20s, in the 1570s by a Spanish man by the name of Coronado. Coronado came into the Puebloan area, took over the Pueblo city, the historic big Pueblo city that everybody sees in movies, massive thing underneath that big rock wall. Coronado took that whole area over for about 3 years. And he hunted and killed one of these parrots. He reported, and there's plenty of descriptions of it, he reported its call being a massive thunder-like scream, a caw, not an eagle scream. He also reported it as picking up people from his group, his party, and dropping them on the ground to kill them. That is behavior exactly like one other bird on this planet that currently lives, and that is the Egyptian vulture. The Egyptian vulture can pick up a stone 10 times its weight and drop it on an ostrich egg to break it. It's the only bird today that is built the same way this guy was, and we've also discovered some interesting things about ancient birds recently. Some of the bigger, more ancient species had aerated bones, so their bones could actually uptake air and give them more lift because they had more buoyancy in the air, so to speak. Oddity. So the descriptions of this thing that both Coronado's men and my grandmother described is this thing has anywhere between a 15 and an 18-foot wingspan. And she said, though it was at a distance, it looked to be larger than man size, and she saw it sitting on the side of a cliff on a massive nest, and she was looking through binoculars to be at a safe distance, and she was undercover with the elder. She noticed that there were archaic bones near the nest on the cliffside, not modern human skull, a flat-faced, lobate-looking, primate-looking skull, and what looked like a femur bone that had been nipped in half. According to the Puebloan lore, these parrots are meat eaters, and they're left over from ancient times. They've always lived in a certain area of the canyon, and we don't go there. Their tribe doesn't go there. They've known about them. They're still there today. It's part of the reason probably why some of the Grand Canyon is not allowed to go into, because these things might still be living there. And they do raise their hackle and fluff like a macaw does, I think it is, or not a macaw, but the one that the one parrot that abuses its own young, cockatoos. It has the same kind of behavior, raising its feathers on top of its head. So it's an odd mix. And it's, again, iridescent blue-black with white. And it has these, extra spots everywhere on its feathers. So those are the three of these unique cryptids. And now let me grab a pen so I can get into the different locales that they have historically been known to be in. So, the Átah Saia, the big reptilian-looking guy, they've been, and they're still sighted all through this region in Alaska, all down through the Rockies, all along the west coast, all down through central portion of South America. I don't know if there's sightings of them below this. Additionally, all around Hudson Bay, all around the Great Lakes area, down through the Midwest, across all through this really ancient forest land, and into lower part of Florida. There are also some things out in the Florida Keys that are from the same time period. Out on a couple of the islands in the Florida Keys, there are still giant centipedes, about 3-4 foot long, that are probably from the same time period as these guys, or maybe a little bit after. So these guys had an extensive range, all across these upper regions and southern regions. The Shunka Warak'in, this big dog thing. It's still seen all through this part of the Rockies, into the Wyomings, Nevada, Colorado, all through this mid-central area. People still report it taking their cattle. And they'll be anywhere from tan in color to brown and black. The brown ones are here along the west coast. The tan ones were historically all through Central California, all through this section of the Rockies, all the way through the central regions, all the way over into the Mississippi. The Lakota had sightings of them. A lot of the Plains Indians, Cheyenne, etc., Crow, all had sightings of Shunka Warak'in. There's some indication now that they've stretched even further north, and they're getting up into not so much the northern territories, but lower BC, up into the Okanagan area. And then lastly, these big parrots that are carnivorous. Oh, and in ancient times, 22 feet. Some of their wingspans could be 22 feet, and their bodies could be almost 10 foot in height. Historically, they have ranged all across the Southwest and into northern South America to about where Mexico City is today. And in more ancient times, some of them were even here in this region, but I don't know is there any left now here. There are still sightings, though, down in the California region occasionally. You'll see them, and occasionally you'll see them in the Grand Canyon and through this Southern Rockies area. This Southern Rocky and then going down into South America proper, that also is a really archaic trade route, which I'll make a map of later. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and we'll get into more versions of more variations of the Shunka Warak'in and more variations of the Thunderbird, because there are actually quite a few more variations of these cryptids than people realize. And it's mainly because in the last couple of 100 years, historians have tried to lump Native American cultures together. They've tried to compile down lore to make it more digestible, more understandable, or more relatable to, I don't know, whatever they think it is, which it loses its value because the names for the specific creatures becomes muddied. They become generalized. You know, Sasquatch means Bigfoot, when there used to be 18 different names for a Susqueta. Uh, which ones were dangerous and which ones weren't. They all had specific names and descriptions that went with them. Too much generalization has happened in the last 100 years, uh, unfortunately, and it became a fad in the 1790s to start trying to collect Native American lore and condense it. There are ancient historians that have made that mistake before, and people have continued to make it as modern historians, especially when it comes to Native folklore. Unfortunately, that's done us no favor with trying to understand particular species of creatures that are out there. And that's why I'm taking my time and I'm trying to find some of the old names again. In the event that I cannot find an archaic name, a historic name from any tribe for what I'm after to try to describe it, I'll use my grandmother's names or the translation of them. That way, at least you have a translation and you have an archaic name that probably will never be able to understand because the language that it's attached to is probably gone and no longer used. So anyway, if you guys have any questions, hit me up now. Hopefully this has been informative. And I do want to probably do some more on the little people next week. I'll give some options. I'll probably ask, do another poll, vote for what you want to talk about. All right, so Eric, what color eye shine for that parrot? Night or day, hunter or both? It was claimed to hunt in both day and the night, and I believe the account said it had red eye shine. I think Coronado's account said it had red eye shine. You can actually find his account online, and you could read about him going bankrupt because he was in search of the lost city of El Dorado, and he tanked himself, God, in the space of about 6 years trying to find the city. He found the Pueblo people, he found the Navajo people, and he harassed them and killed their birds. Uh, but the account is accurate. The descriptions are accurate. The historian that was with him was a priest. So you get Coronado's military opinion about it being a creature that can bleed. Oh, and it's supposed to have like, on some areas of its body, its skin is teal colored, and in other areas, it's darker blue black or blue gray colored skin. And it supposedly has a black beak and black talons. Um, and I don't know much about the difference between the males and the females. I don't know what the markings are that delineate that. All I know is it's really beautiful and very terrifying. And yes, it is a silent flyer. Like the Shunka Warak'in, it moves. Both of these cryptids move absolutely silently. Even at night, when this thing flies, you supposedly can't hear it. But it can also shatter or shake its wings to make sound. And the feathers are supposed to be sharp. I don't know how that works or what they're really trying to describe in the lore. Sharp feathers. Maybe there are some sort of spines or quills or something intermixed with the feathers. I don't know. Or maybe the feathers themselves are believed to be sharp because of the shape of them. The flicker-like shape. I don't know. Could be a bonier ridge to the feathers that makes them sharp. And the the descriptions from Coronado's experience, they their Thunderbird that they had the encounter with was tactical. It it could understand what his men were doing to try to capture it and kill it, and it would evade some of their traps. The descriptions are pretty well documented with that experience. So go look up Coronado's Hunt for El Dorado and see what you can learn from the original transcripts about his encounters, because it gets into pretty good detail. You know, he talks about not just these kinds of creatures, he also talks about the Puebloan people and uh, some of their insights and their thoughts on it, because they interviewed people a couple of times. They also tried to torture them and convert them, but has to be expected when you have conflicting religions and cultures around each other. And that's unfortunately been the biggest issue with trying to preserve native culture and lore. It's always been in conflict with Christian ideology that came to this country with settlers, and our lore has always been seen as devilish or demonic when it's actually just talking about leftover historic creatures. Okay, Eric, has anyone ever been captured? Has one ever been captured? Not that I am aware of. There were stories when they were in northern South America from some of the hill cultures that claimed that they would try to steal feathers from them when they were molting uh, for adornments, and that was a test of manhood, was to try to outmatch one of these things and not get killed by it. And there are stories from southern indigenous people that talk about failing and the warriors not coming back because they ended up in the nest. Um, so look into some of the South American lore as well. It gives a little more information about them. They don't always describe them as a parrot. They will describe them as having a hooked beak, a black beak, that they have a strange scream, not like an eagle scream, but like something else. And, you know, parrots can make any kind of sound they want, and if they're mimicking something that's a ancient historic animal, or maybe its call is just historically ancient, it's not going to sound like a modern bird. So that might just be its call. And there are accounts of it that it likes to ride in the storms. In fact, I might even post a picture of what might be one over, I think it was Chicago a couple of years ago. Somebody filmed it in a storm, and I'm not sure if it's one of these type of Thunderbird or a different northern variety. Because there are several varieties of ancient birds that are all clumped together and called Thunderbird when they used to have specific names, like this one, the Quetzalcoatl. You know, that is a specific name. It's been, you know, modernized and clumped together as a Thunderbird, but the Quetzalcoatl is the real name of this creature for the native people. So it's a specific name for a specific creature, classified now as just a thunderbird because it sounds like every other big species of bird out there. Mind you, along the west coast, there's another version of this thing, and even here in this valley, there's not a parrot, it's an eagle, but it's got orange feet and an orange beak, and it's brown like a golden eagle. And they get pretty large. And the last interaction with a bird like that was in the 70s, I want to say, around 77-ish, maybe a little earlier, 74. There was a 10-year-old boy or 9-year-old boy in LA County, from what I remember. Because I was a little girl with my grandmother down in California around the same time the incident happened. My grandmother made me stay inside the house for like a month. She wouldn't let me out after dusk at all. She wouldn't even let me out, you know, because she was concerned about the eagle. So the newspaper article, and it was on the news too. I think it was on CBS or CNN News, from what I remember. Because I remember watching the news report of it. I was a child that was picked up. He was playing with his older brother uh, somewhere in a waterway, I think, like the LA riverbed area where it's all cemented. And he got picked up by what they described as a giant golden eagle. He was carried 150 yards or 200 yards before the thing dropped him. And his brother was running after him and trying to make the bird let go of him. And the child was dropped. I think he sprained his ankle or broke his leg or something on the fall because he dropped from 18 or 20 feet. But a large unknown bird with an approximate 10 to 15 foot wingspan picked the child up, carried him a few hundred feet, yards, dropped him on the ground again. Was seen in the area for a couple of weeks, and then reports stopped coming in that it was there. Maybe it moved on, or maybe it caught a meal. And then there are others. You know, they're the more leathery winged type Thunderbirds that are more pterosaur or pterodactyl-like. That are up around Greater Lakes area. Some sightings in the Pine Barrens of them. And then some of the other oddities. The Shunka Warak'in and the Átah Saia are both considered creatures that can disappear. Like some Bigfoot can cloak or themselves, you know, go invisible. Both the Shunka Warak'in, a type of them, not the tan or the potentially the brown, although the picture of the brown one that I have looks like it's probably cloaked. So maybe all three of the species that are known of, or four of the species that are around, can do that. This, as I say, it's supposed to be able to disappear. They also dig pits in the ground and will sit in pits. They also have a tendency, and probably the picture of the one that I got last year is probably sitting in a bath hole, because the other thing that they were known to do is dig out little pit areas up underneath embankments so they can have a cool spot to sit in and just bathe in, you know, get out of the sun, because they have a tendency to overheat. So they have a tendency to try to cool themselves off. Maybe it's because they're used to being in a much cooler atmosphere below ground. So they're known to cool themselves in waterways by digging pits and embankments and sitting in those pits. And I'm pretty sure that the picture that I have is a sump point like that, where he's sitting down in a hole or leaning in a really shallow embankment that's been dug out. And because of their bat-like nature, they're also claimed to drain some of their victims of blood, like a vampire bat does. I don't know enough about their feeding behavior, other than they have a tendency to rip things apart when they eat them. I don't know enough about them, though. And I do know that they are pretty resilient. The one that was around my grandmother, she claimed, and the reason why I drew this one's picture a little off with this, what looks like a crushed area and a scar, is because my grandmother claimed the one that she had seen when she was 4 looked like it had been bashed in the head with a stone tool at one point in time, or something heavy, because one eyebrow line was crushed, and it had a big kind of diagonal scar across, close to where the crush spot was on its eyebrow. So it took a direct hit to the head by something and didn't die. Uh, so they're evidently pretty resilient, uh, bone-wise as well. Hope this has been informative. Ah, who's that monster? Well, that is the Átah Saia. They're known in northern. You saw one in Oklahoma. Holy, well, that puts them back on that southern border area. Yeah, 'cause it was, old lore said these things were all through these southern states, all through, and sightings up through this central region here at one point in time. That would make sense if you saw one in Oklahoma. Be careful of them, they're really dangerous. At one time, they were friendly with us. We screwed up again and made them our enemy. They were supposedly the creatures that taught us how to make tools. We got vindictive with them. We wanted more than our due. We got pushy. We started trying to cheat them. I don't know why we'd ever try to cheat something that looked like this. You gotta have some cojones to try to cheat something that looks like that. And they turned away from us. They don't like us. They don't want anything to do with us, but they still, according to native lore, they still manage all of the rocky uh, mountain trade routes. And they still go to either side of the Rockies quite extensively. So they could quite possibly be everywhere. And yeah, be careful of them. They don't really like us. About 7 feet tall. Okay. Smaller. I wonder if that is indication it was a younger one or maybe a different, smaller species. See, that's the kind of thing I'd like to get more information on, is the descriptions of stuff like this. You know, I listen to a lot of people's channels, and I'm starting to back away from it just because I hear the same stuff over and over and over. And I know that there are more sightings out there. I know that people are seeing way different things than just Bigfoot and Dogman. But it seems like these channels that do read people's encounters don't have a tendency to show that off. They don't want to talk about that, but it's actually important. It's important into being able to understand how many different things are out there, where they still exist, and, you know, what other kinds of things could be causing issues. Stop trying to isolate it all down to just Dogman and Bigfoot being the problem when they're probably not even the problem. It's more likely stuff like this and other more dangerous cryptids that are even scarier looking than this crazy looking guy. Uh, to me, that would be more of a potential uh, something to have to deal with, you know. My mother and grandmother both claimed that the Aisa could speak in a language. I don't know what its calls are like. I've never heard one speaking or calling. I've only heard one growl at me, and that was the day I got the picture. I got growled at the end of that film. That's when I shut my camera off and left because it was this guy that was growling at me. And his growl didn't sound like a Bigfoot growl. It didn't sound like a dogman growl. It was way deeper and rougher sounding, more gravelly sounding in the way it growled. Uh, and it had a hiss at the end of it. So it did this kind of weird, real deep throat growl, but a whistle, like a hiss at the end. So that's the only thing I've ever heard it make sound-wise. And I've only ever heard that sound once before. And that was in the 90s when I was in there, but I couldn't locate where it was. So I left. This time I was filming. And I think I even caught... I can't remember if I caught the growl on my recording or if it growled at me right after I shut my camera off. I don't think I caught it, but yeah, it has a real deep throaty growl with a hiss. Maybe like a crocodile or alligator sounding. I don't know. It didn't. I don't have a way of correlating it, but it was a growl hiss, a growl that ended in a hiss, and really throaty, really gravelly. Okay. Well, hey, welcome from Northern Arkansas. All right, welcome, Judy. Chen Valentine, my roommate wants to know where she can donate to your travels. I do have a GoFundMe page up. I don't know if I can accept donations right now. Try it, see if you can. I've got to get back into that channel. I got to update it. And that would be, how to find it is Fund Northwest Trackers, Northwest Native Trackers, Bigfoot Expeditions. Do a search with that phrase, and that should take you to my GoFundMe. It's got a picture of my drawing of Uncle Long on the front of it. And yeah, I've got to get back in that page, and I've got to update it. Hopefully it still accepts donations. If not, let me know. Anyhow, hopefully this has been informative. Like I said, I want to try to get into some of the little people, the little giants, some of the little people that are good. Some of these guys are not so good. And I don't know if the ALC make any kind of structures. They are said to use traps, spears, and stone tools, though, and live in cave systems. I don't know if they make any above ground structures, though, other than for trapping and hunting. And they do hunt at night, but they hang out during the day. So they've got a split sleeping schedule. You know, the funny thing is we didn't have our modern 8-hour sleeping schedule until the Industrial Revolution. Medieval times and even in archaic times, we slept in split rotation. We'd sleep for a few hours at night, we'd get up, we'd eat, we'd forage, get into our grocery stores, we'd go back to sleep, we'd get up during the day, do some hunting, eat, go back to bed. So we slept part of the time during the day as human beings, and part of the time at night as human beings at one point in time. And I think these more ancient species still sleep and forage in that same archaic cycle, you know. So I think their Syrian clock is a little different than ours, a little more archaic. Well, my channel, the Bachelor. Bachelor. This channel is Northwest Native Tracker, and I talk about native lore, native cryptids, ancient creatures that are part of our hereditary knowledge. I also talk about tracking them and how to get pictures of them, and I try to show pictures of them so that people have a better understanding of what kind of archaic creatures live in the world around them and with us. Oh, Judy, thanks. Truth, thank you so much. How internal clock runs naturally. Yep. Yeah, and there have been all kinds of studies done on that too. There's some people that they put in isolation where, they end up going to a 15-hour sleep cycle and a 32-hour wake cycle. So, our environment sometimes dictate, well, not sometimes, our environment dictates our sleep schedule. And if you are in a more natural environment, then you're going to have a natural sleep cycle. If you are in a more synthetic environment, like a work environment, then your sleep schedule is going to have to mold to that. Let me think if there's anything else I can think of about these things. Oh, yeah. There is one other piece of interesting lore that the Navajo should be aware of. And if they aren't aware of it, they need to be aware of it. So there's lore about skinwalkers having a black claw that they use to flick turquoise at you that's cursed, to drain your energy, to assume your form, to yada yada yada. Well, the one skinwalker I was around, mind you, it's a person, claimed that how they got the ability was they killed and ate one of these things and took its claw, performed some magical ritual over it to harness the power, and used it as a slip-on to flick turquoise at you with. The day that skinwalker flicked turquoise at me, I grabbed the turquoise and threw it back at it. Told it to knock it off. So, the magical power of the skinwalker is stolen from the Átah Saia. That's their big secret. That was something else told to me by my grandmother. But until I was able to confirm it by seeing the action in action and talking to another medicine person, is this really the lore here? Is this really what happens? Yes, it's really what happens. And there are other species of archaic creature out there that darker evil doing people. They'll take them. They'll use magic to harness their power, and they'll utilize body parts. You see that in modern day Satanism and human femurs and skulls and crap like that. So it's the same kind of principle, just something to be aware of. Because I'm not a dark entity and I don't want to practice anything like that. But in order to fight something like that, or to have an awareness of what to do about something like that, as a medicine person, you have to be aware of where the power comes from and how to quelch it. And that's why, there were some native tribes that had specific people that were trained to eliminate certain things like skinwalkers or Wendigo, what are called cursed beings, because they're doing dark magic. They're human beings that are messing with the order of stuff. We used to take care of them. We used to eliminate them from our society. Now we don't get that chance because that isn't seen as conducive to living. Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how you want to live. All right, guys. So hopefully I can continue to do this series, and hopefully you enjoy it. I'm going to try to add more and more as I go along. Hopefully I'll be able to start doing 2 or 3 at a time on each live. Try to cover more creatures so that you guys have a under, quicker understanding and a more complete understanding of some of the lore out there. Give you some references, some names to look up for yourself. You can research the names yourselves, see what kinds of information you can find on your own. There are going to be some variations. There are going to be some differences in the lore, depending on which tribe you're doing your research on. But you can get a decent picture of some of these creatures by, kind of searching out the ancient names and seeing what the ancient descriptions were. It really does help. And it's been drizzly. It's absolutely rainy and crummy today. We're supposedly getting some snow later this week. Ugh, I hope not. I live on a hill. That would suck. But if it does, and it lays on good enough, I know of an area where I can maybe get nice snowy trackway from a Bigfoot. If snow occurs, I'll go up to see if I can film that trackway and maybe get a knock or two out of that group, because they always warn when people are up near them, and sometimes I can catch that as I drive up. Oh, I'm glad you liked the show, Erica. Or Eric, excuse me. Hey Dan, how you doing? So, I think I'm gonna probably put up 2 or 3 drawings of little people this week and do a vote again. And if I can condense down a couple more pieces on some good little people like the Weebla or the little toe-headed creatures, the little toe-headed individuals from the Appalachians or the Ozarks, I think they're both in that area, the Moonite people. We'll do something like that next weekend. We'll do a piece, and I'm probably gonna switch to Sundays, just because I only get one day off a week, and that's Saturday, and doing the show in the middle of it makes me feel like I don't have a day off. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna move to Sundays with my 3 o'clock show, and give myself an actual day off. If I can get my work schedule back around to where I can do a full Friday, if my back doesn't kill me too bad, hopefully I could start having a full weekend. That would be nice. And I will see how that goes. It's all dependent upon my back and whether or not I can keep it stretched out enough for it to not cramp up on me by Friday. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them out there. I'm glad you enjoyed this. I'm glad you're enjoying this series. I figured this would be a good fill-in while I'm not doing any real field research, just because the weather's been so crummy. Uh, if it clears up, I'll try to dash out and do something film-wise. It looks like I'm probably taking it clears up in another month or so. And it looks like it's been trying to end up with some lightning storms this spring, so it might get a little interestingly dodgy soon. Sometimes we get some real benders here on the west coast. We'll end up with little cyclones, little mini tornadoes and all kinds of stuff that happen here. Doesn't happen every year. It's very infrequent, but some years you can just kind of tell it's going to be a little windier or a little more harsh than normal in the spring, and this spring looks like it's going to be a little more harsh. Judy, looking forward to, take care, kind of being in the right, yep. I don't know. I'm thinking about getting my camping package paid up and utilizing my resort locations. I've got some vacation time coming up this fall, about a week's worth. So I think probably August I'll pay that up and make an itinerary for a vacation time this fall. Maybe hit Central Oregon, maybe Eastern Oregon, Columbia River, or out on the West Coast somewhere here, maybe in the northern coastal region, up around Tillamook area where there's a lot of activity. Uh, if I utilized my camping package and went for a cabin up there, I could do a week's worth of traveling up and down the Columbia River Gorge and do some, hiking out on the coastal range where I know there are some sun-faced people and other Bigfoot cryptids out in that region, especially around Tillamook, up around the Boring, Oregon area. I've had encounters up there myself. Or I could do a couple of days or a week over in Central Oregon at the resort there, which would allow me to cover like Redmond, Bend, Madras, that Central Oregon area. I could also go see my brother. Or if I went over to almost Idaho, I could maybe go take a look at some of the stuff I've been told about over there, but I haven't been over to the Painted Hills area yet. It's an area I want to go to because of the amount of fossils that are over there, the unusual encounters that people have over there, and some of the unusual diorite tools that are reported to be along that area. Um, and it's likely that these Átah might also use diorite tools. Um, so some rockhound friends of mine have told me about an area where there are both Bigfoot and something that looks like a lizard man. I haven't shown the guy this picture yet. I need to. He isn't working right now out in public. He's got his winter off. He won't be back out selling his napped knives and stuff until April, I think it is. I'll have to take him the picture of the Átah Saia, see if he recognizes that as the thing he saw over in Central Oregon. Because it's likely coming down out of the Rockies if it's coming that far. Because they used to. I don't see why they wouldn't today to continue to do the same sort of thing if they wanted to. Or I could do a coastal thing. I go down into Northern California. Go to oil flats area. There's a lot of activity there. Always has been there. Whole bunch of structures along that beach line and all through that northern region around Fortuna, Humboldt County, Humboldt River. All that area has a ton of activity in it too. So I might put it up to a vote. If you want me to go up and try to find a Klingatat cat, or if you'd like me to try to go out to the coast and look for maybe sun-faced people out there, or do a Central Oregon jaunt where I show you some of the stuff out in the desert where I did my turnout. I might put that up to a vote that do maybe a month-long vote or something on that while I'm trying to figure out what my itinerary should be for this summer and what I want to do for my vacation. Because I do want to use my camping package, even if I can't get a freaking towable right yet. Oh, and I'm still waiting. I don't have an appointment until next month. They're pretty backed up in that shop. Evidently, they're pretty popular. So I gotta wait until I think it's the 14th of next month to get in to have them look at whether or not I can have. They did a brief look at it, and the opinion they gave me is this. Well, it looks like somebody was putting your shocks on and forgot to tighten the upper bolts, and then the owner drove off with it, and they've rusted in place with them gapped open about an inch and a quarter. And I'm like, oh, great. So I've got a lot of rattle space in those bolts that are supposed to be tight on the top of it. Um, so yeah, they'll give me an estimate once they look at it to see whether or not they can just get a tool up there to cut them, or if they're going to have to take my front panels off to get into the side housing. I really don't want to do that. I hope they can just fit a grinder tool up there to cut those bolts, or, you know, a pair of nippers to cut them. I don't want to have to pay for them to take my panels off, put it back on, because such a pain. I'll let you know. Okay. Laura, I would love to see the area where you had your turnout. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's actually beautiful location. It's a well-known area actually. My mom had to have we had to have written permission for me to be there to do my turnout. Um, God, it's such a beautiful place. So I know, and it was only the main area proper that I had to have permission to be in. The surrounding area at the time was all open range, so you could walk through anybody's yard, anybody's fence, didn't matter. It's a little different now. There's more people over there from California, and they don't honor the open range rules as much as the farmers do over there. So they get a little picky about where you can go when it's all supposed to be open range. But they don't follow the rules. I think they own it. Okay, that's two for turnout. All right. Yeah, that give me a chance to see my brother. And I'd really love to spend a full week over there. Only problem is I'm gonna have somebody watch my dog, cause I don't want to take her into rattlesnake territory. She doesn't know anything about rattlesnakes, and she's way too friendly with snakes. She walks up on garter snakes all the time. So I don't want to have to worry about that while I'm out in the field, because there are a ton of rattlesnakes where I gotta go. In fact, one ridgeline I have to crawl into, I have to crawl over a bedding area where the rattlesnakes are. It's the only way into the little ravine. There's only one way in and one way out. And you better know it. And not be worried if there are a couple hundred rattlesnakes around you when you do it. But once I get there, I'll have to film it because it's an ancient sundial. It's a rock sundial. It's a historic sundial. It's Native American structure. And I've talked to Warm Spring Indian people and Madras Indians, and neither of those tribes know about it. And they've asked me to document it so I can show them the film, pinpoint the location for them so they can put it under protection. So that's part of the reason why I'd like to go to that area. I'd like to be able to get into that hidden ravine and note that particular historic site so it can be put on a registry for protection. And yeah, I would be happy to show you around my old stomping grounds and make a couple of videos over there where you always get stuff thrown at you. Yeah, it should be fun if I go there. I know that area pretty well, and I got to be careful on the one end of it though, because the sun-faced people, they never forget you, and if they notice me, they'll still hunt me. So I got to stay away from that area. All right, guys. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Since there aren't too many questions, I guess I covered enough bases for you to understand the material. And I am currently building quite a set of references. I'm categorizing, filing it, and getting it organized to compile into books and or to use as later reference material. which will include all of my drawings of all these different cryptids, the different kinds of tools that I found, etc. So it'll be part of the body of material that I draw on for some of the books that I'm working on, and the guide that my friend and I are working on, a little field guide, and hopefully this summer I can get him some better pictures for the field guide. That's the other reason why he was helping me get lenses, so that I can get cleaner images for the book, so that when you crack open my reference book, hopefully I will have tracks, sets, along with the image of the particular cryptid. And if not, it will have to be drawn track set with the picture of the cryptid, some of the lore, hopefully some of the historic names, and some of their behaviors, that sort of thing. And whether or not you need to worry about them, what kind of markers might be around to indicate there's an issue, like the boogeyman marker and the Ryogen marker for Sickle Man, gonna take your head off. So those kinds of markers will be in the field guide, and then there's also going to be descriptions of the creatures, some lore about each, and hopefully footprints for each one of them, so that it's kind of you can pop it open in the field and get a good idea of what you might be facing, or what might be around you, and what it might look like, what its tracks might look like, and what its general behavior is going to be like, whether it's dangerous, and how quickly you need to get out of the area. There was a guide previously done like that back in the 60s or 70s by a fellow who was interested in Bigfoot, and that's kind of where I got my idea from, because I used to have a copy of that. I don't know if I still have a copy of it, but his was really neat. He had pictures of foot tracks that were life-size in the book. And it was a long, narrow thing that would fit in your backpack. I don't think I want to make mine quite that big, but he had an interesting concept, and it was useful. You know, it was a type of quick reference you could use in the field. And I think it would be nice to have a backpacking reference guide like that. You know, something useful that has enough information to be a quick reference that you can, in the space of a minute, you know, sit there and go, okay, I figured out what I think I'm around, what kind of behaviors, okay, it's got this, this, and this is what I need to look for, this is the kind of scream I need to listen for, okay, I've heard this, and I haven't heard that yet, but I can leave the area, you know, because I know I've got some time. Or, you know, if you're getting ready to go somewhere, you can read through it, reference through it, understand what you might encounter, you know, with some basic descriptions of calls and what have you, and types of structures they might build, or things you might see in the field in association with a particular cryptid, and when there might be a warning time, you know, when you need to leave. Rock throwing is one of those. Depending on if they're aiming at your head. If they're aiming at your head, you might want to leave. They probably think you're dinner. If they're pelting you with just little pine cones and stuff, it's probably just a mama Bigfoot wanting you to leave. So, you know, being able to delineate that the same behavior comes from two different species is also something that needs to be understood. You know, Dogman, Bigfoot, ALC, they all throw rocks. You know, and they all look different. They aren't the same creature. They all have the same behavior, except Adelcy will throw a rock at your head to try to crush your skull. And in fact, the one that my grandmother saw, she said it had a dent. So one of its own kind might have tried to eat it. Because they are known to be very cannibalistic, even with each other. So it's possible. Oh, anyway, I'm glad you like this. Please double check your notifications bells because not everybody's getting notifications correctly. Um, Other than that, I hope you have enjoyed this. What's ALC? ALC? I don't understand, Hollis. Oh, Adelcy. Oh, Adelcy. The type of cryptid we were talking about. The Adelcy is this scary thing. They stand 10 to 12 feet tall, have a very muscular barrel chest, leathery tan skin, bat-like face, horsetail-like hair, scaling on their legs and arms with very archaic uh, reptile-like hands, I guess. They're a cryptid known here in the Northwest and in other parts of the United States. And I did just put a picture up of one uh, that I took. I got some video of him last year in a really dark, receded spot next to a riverbank area. I kind of pieced together between the lore and the descriptions that I've been told of him, what it might look like standing in front of you, at least by the description, and that they're cannibalistic. Be careful of them; they will eat you, and they will eat each other, and they do hunt bigger animals. They definitely take out cows by ripping them apart. They're still seen in Montana and some parts of the Rockies, and some researchers are beginning to understand that these guys more or less control the Rockies, along with a couple of other larger cryptid species, which we'll go into later. So the Native American name for them, I think this is a Huron or Lenape name for them, or Lenape name for them, is Átah Saia. Each tribe has a slightly different name for them. We called them Obsidian Man in the Lakota because of the color of their scales. They have blue-black iridescent scales with white tips, supposedly. Are the goat type with antlers in North Texas real? Yes, they are. In fact, I got a picture of one of those guys from this area, and the property owners that have Bigfoot on their property, that have a trade agreement with them, the gal there, one of the property owners of that land, let me know that on the north side of the lake next to where they live, there are some more horned goat looking, upright walking people. Uh, around the north side of that, north and east side of that lake. That's another location I'm probably going to try to go to get some footage. There's a massive abandoned park on that side of the lake. A few people go into it, but most people don't seem to go to that park. The weird thing is the bathrooms are open, and they're all, dug in the ground potties, but not flushables. But for the amount of territory, it looks like there's a good 20, 30 acres along that side of the lake. Hardly anybody goes to that area. I'm assuming it's because of the cryptids there being scary. And that's what, the property owner, when she was talking about it, says, oh yeah, they're not shy at all. They'll come at dusk, and there'll be 20, 30 of them standing in the brush line, in the tree lines in that region, and they'll watch you for 30, 40 minutes. So I've got to find a way of getting in there, because you have to walk in, and parking's at the exterior. Occasionally the gate is open for special functions. I would like to go during that time so I can get further in to the acreage and not have to walk it, because there is no quick way out. And I don't want to have to, if I run into a group of these things that are not friendly, I don't want to have to play evade to get out. And just with the low numbers of people going there, makes me really think people avoid the area for a reason. So I'm going to have to do some legwork around that one, see if I can find a spot where I can park a little closer to where I want to try to go in, so I have quicker access to my vehicle to get out, yada yada. I gotta do some legwork. Guess what? You earned yourself a one-way ticket out. Have a nice day. Alright, guys. Yeah, been about an hour and a half, and I think jackalope, jackrabbit with antelope horns, do they exist? Size, eyesight, location, etc. I don't know. I've never seen one of those, and I don't have any lore about that sort of thing. As far as I know, jackalopes came around in World War One as some sort of a joke with some branch of the military. Can't remember if it was the Marines or Army or somebody. Jackalope. I don't know. I don't have any lore about jackalopes. That's a modern thing as far as I know. I'm only covering Native American lore and the cryptids that we understood that we lived around. And at least not in my tribe, there's no lore about them. I'll have to look. Maybe there's lore in somebody else's tribe. But it's not a critter I'm aware of. Though I have seen stuffed renditions on gift shop walls down in California, but I'm pretty sure they're just created, combination between a jackrabbit and, small deer horns. The funny thing is that it was a full rack of horns that was far too small to be from a standard deer. So whoever made the particular one that was mounted to the wall down there in that gift shop had to have used like musk deer horns or something to put in the jackrabbit's fur bonnet there to make it look like something it wasn't. So who knows? But I don't know any lore about jackalopes. At least it's not a Native American thing as far as I'm aware. I'll look into it though. I'll take a gander. Because, there are some things I'm pretty sure I've never even heard of. But no, primarily I'm discuss Native American lore and Native American understanding of the various cryptids in the content of my channel. That's my focus. It's not European cryptid, it's not world cryptids, it's what's here in the United States living with us. In particular, what's here along the West Coast and along the Rockies that I'm aware of. And some of the stuff that I'm aware of from the Greater Huron area, Greater Lake area, and the Hudson Bay, because I have family over that way, Native American people. So between the three tribes that I have bloodline from, that's where I draw my lore from. And the name for the parrot-like looking Thunderbird is actually the Nootka name for it from the coastal tribe here in northern Washington that part of my native bloodline comes from. So that name, the Kunskla, that's the Nootka name, tribal name for this particular type of Thunderbird. Not the Lakota name or any other native tribal name. And there are different names, the Maya had a different name for it, the Lakota had a different name for them, And the Nut could add a different name for Thunderbird because they were all describing different types of Thunderbird, not the same creature. That's something I'm trying to help people understand. There's been a lot of generalization. Oh, it's a Thunderbird. The person writing it down goes, oh, Thunderbird, that's all I need to know. I don't need to know it's a giant parrot or a giant dinosaur or a giant eagle. It's just a Thunderbird. That generalization has cost us some understanding. And that's part of why I'm trying to go back through and find the specific names, if they still exist in our cultures, and then link them back to the specific cryptid they belong to, so that modern people can have a better understanding name and the creature and get away from the generalization of the last 300 years. Because the last couple of hundred years, native culture and our religion, our folklore, everything has been generalized. It's been clumped together, it's been squished together, it's been, in some cases, completely lost because the people are, they're completely dead, they're extinct. I mean, we had thousands of tribes here in the United States, now we have 530 left. We had millions of people, and now we have a couple 100,000, million or two people, when we had 53 million originally in just some of our greater cities in North and South America. Um, there's a lot that's been lost, and a lot of people don't realize how much has been lost. Like, part of the reason why I pointed you guys to Ishi, the last American Indian, supposedly wild Indian on the West Coast. He was, found in 1914, captured after his entire tribe had been killed 40 years before, his family had been killed. Uh, he had a language group that was similar to the Yaqui, Yami, and Yahi. However, none of those tribal people could speak with him because the language was too different. So, you got an example right there, a living example right there with Ishi. And we also never knew his name. He called himself Ishi because that was a word for man. And that was one thing the Yami and Yahi could understand, was they shared that one word, Ishi, for man. But his culture, his tribe, the custom was you couldn't introduce yourself because of the potential of dark magic. So somebody else had to introduce you. Nobody left in his tribe, so his name was never known. He could never say his name. It was against his customs. So that's an example of how everything associated with that man's culture is gone. All of his lore, all of his tribal lore, that went with him when he died. He was the last person of his tribe to know that. There weren't even any tribes close by that probably either shared his language or his lore. And those cultures, Yami Yahi, Yaki, they're all slightly different. The language is slightly different. The lore is all slightly different because of the cryptids that live in the area around the tribes. See, we didn't have one complete myth cycle. We had the lore of the creatures in our area because they are what we lived around. Sometimes we shared that lore with the other tribes around us because they had similar cryptids. But we didn't catalog the way you guys do. We didn't put our stuff in books. We kept it as a linguistic understanding, as a linguistic lore, and as a visual lore. We were taken to these places and shown these creatures. There was no need to write them down. You know, we just go out to the hillside and go, hey, that's what a booger looks like. Stay away from it. Aye, aye, Captain. I, pioneers, they would not take that. They would shoot the booger and then go, oh, I got rid of it. No, you killed one. You probably just pissed off the rest of them. Good luck with your farm. Have a nice day. And then, anybody that tried to tell about the lore, Tried to explain to pioneers and settlers that no, there's some areas that are too dangerous to go into. Oh no, that's just mythology. That's just folklore. That's just demons. So that's part of the unraveling of the mentality that has to happen in order for the lore to actually be understood. We have to stop looking at the native lore through modern eyes, modern intellect, and modern thoughts about religion, belief, and concepts. It's actually not relevant. You have to look at the lore for what the lore is. You have to look at the native understanding as not myth, that there were physical creatures around them that they recorded and documented and understood and knew about. That, we've now turned into bedtime stories. Yeah, I bet. Judy, I used to ask friends and family what happened 300 years ago, and the room would go silent. Well, from the 1790s on, mind you, America actually didn't become a nation until 1790. I mean, we declared our independence in 1776, and we went through, what, 8 or 10 years worth of war? And then we had another 8 or 10 years where we had to do things like create the first patent house, because, you can't print money without being able to patent the engraved piece that you're going to use to print your money with. So we had to have a patent house and issue patents before we could print money other than coin printed money, you know, uh, ink and paper versus stamped metal. So during that time, um, there was this kind of genre of historians that wanted to try to compile native lore. So they would travel through regions, like around the Greater Lakes area, for instance. The book, uh, The Longhouse, is actually a compilation book of lore from the Greater Lakes region, and let's see, it's got Modoc, Mohawk, Algonquin, Iroquois, some of the Lakota lore. I want to say Huron and Lenape lore, and Kikwaksi lore, all condensed down into one book. And all of the imagery is condensed into this kind of mythic creation story about how uh, the native lore of those particular groups resembles the Bible and Genesis. You can see where this is going. So they took about 7 or 8 tribal lores and squished them together to turn them into a cohesive kind of Christianized version of those tribes' lore, and then started selling it as good information about tribal history. And that was a popular book. It was reprinted until 1848. I think 1853 was the last printing of that book. So it remained as a historical reference novel for 200 years, almost 300 years before it stopped being published. You can still find copies of it today. And some of the descriptions, I mean, it went into descriptions of the Janoskwa, stone-covered people. Um, some of the descriptions of Thunderbird, the flying heads. It described quite a few unusual cryptids, but the way they were condensed down into like almost a bedtime stories for your kids, folklore stories, it makes it kind of difficult If you aren't familiar with the particular differences in the cultural lore, you could very easily think they were all the same lore. There's even a little bit of Nordic lore pushed into this book, also from the Norsemen that came here, because there are some cross adoptions lorically around the Greater Lakes regions, because we did have interactions with Norsemen. We traded with Norsemen. Even the Iroquois and Algonquin outfits were influenced by our interactions with Norsemen, as were their outfits. You know, occasionally they come back with a horned helmet, and that was not normal for the Vikings. Where'd they get the concept? Well, Huron and Iroquois, they'll wear horns for their headdresses. It was cultural cross-pollination there of a concept. That's why there's so few of that representation in the Nordic lands, but you'll find it here. You know, we shared cultures for criminy sakes, and we had several hundred years of trading with the Norse. The Norse started coming to the Eastern Shoreboard 700s when they were going out Viking. We started seeing them here. They had colonies, some out in Nova Scotia region, and then some came in through the Huron and Erie Canal Lake lock system. We had records of them around Lake Superior. Rockfield, Pennsylvania still has a longhouse that was built by Norsemen that lived with my tribal people that were the Northern Dakota, the Papa. That building still stands. It's now almost a museum. It's locally known. They don't advertise its existence very much. It still sits on my family's property back there. I don't think it's public access, but I think people are researching it. I don't know. I have to look into the family records to see who might own it, or if it's still just laying around in probate. I don't know. It's tribal land, though, so it can't go the way of normal land. It has to go through tribal release. Oh. Well, looks like my allergy pill just about ran out. Well, I think on that note, I should probably wrap this up. Since I can't breathe, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover anyway. And, like I said, switching to Sundays, 3 p.m. And this week I'll put up another couple drawings to vote on. And I'll see how many I can put together for next Sunday's live. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. Like I said, double check your notification bells. I've been getting turned off. It's just the allergies of my life. Plants start blooming. I don't breathe. It continues until they stop blooming. Alrighty. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you for being here. Appreciate y'all. And that looks like I need to pay some attention to my little girl there. Hi, baby. You want to say hi to everybody? Yeah. Anyway, have a good one, everybody. Take care.